Details on a new price tag for the planned Franklin County prison, why it's now millions more. And President Trump will give his joint address to Congress this evening. We'll have a look at which topics he could discuss.
Live on 5 News and streaming on 5 Plus, this is a weather impact alert.
Well, this is our footage from our storm chasers. Storms bringing heavy rain and thunderstorms across 5 countries today. This is video we shot earlier as the storms moved through. And take a look at this. People in Oklahoma waking up to massive damage as 3 tornadoes tore through Ada, Oklahoma and the surrounding areas. You can see from this video just how powerful the storms were. They caused Ada Public Schools to close for the day. Well, thank you for joining us for your 5 News at noon. I'm Morgan Wrigley here with meteorologist Stephen Elmore. There's lots to talk about all over the area, so let's just get straight to the weather. Yeah, this morning it was a busy morning. We had some pretty intense thunderstorms, mainly across the river valley, or at least around I-40 and south is where the strongest thunderstorms were. Had a few severe thunderstorm warnings, but mainly it was a wind threat this morning. Didn't end up getting as much of that severe weather across northwest Arkansas. Now, the majority of those thunderstorms are wrapping up. The rest of the day's concern is going to be the strong winds that we have. Let's take a look at radar as we head into the afternoon. Again, you work further off towards the west, parts of Benton, Carroll, Crawford, Sebastian, Scott, and eastern Oklahoma. All clear right now, just seeing some cloud coverage. But further off towards the east, parts of Carroll, parts of Madison, you work yourself into Johnson, Logan, Scott counties, parts of Scott counties. That's where you'll still find some showers, but mainly the severe threat is done for right now. Now, by the time we get to this afternoon, we're going to see maybe some sunshine pop back out, but definitely some strong winds start to pick back up once again. If there is a few isolated showers here and there is a chance that we could see another one of those supercells develop by the time we get late this afternoon into the early evening hours. But overall, that chance is very low. Just don't want to rule out any chances of maybe seeing an isolated thunderstorm or two. This is new from the Storm Prediction Center. Early this morning, we had that level 2 slight risk all across the area. They've updated that map since then. And now we just have that level 1 marginal risk across most of northwest Arkansas and the river valley still for today, just in case we have a few more of those isolated thunderstorms by the time we get, again, late afternoon, early evening hours. Of course, the big story, though, is going to be the winds the rest of the day, but also the snow chances for tomorrow morning. Here's a look at those wind alerts. This continues throughout the day today and throughout until noon for tomorrow. Those wind gusts going to be very strong, especially during the overnight hours. We take a look. Again, we're going to get another surge of some warm air by the time we get to this afternoon into the evening hours. During that period is when we could see maybe an isolated thunderstorm. But then as we go into the overnight hours, we're going to get some very strong winds coming from the northwest, and it's going to plummet those temperatures. By the time we get to tomorrow, we could have those wind gusts peaking up near 40 up to 50 miles per hour. Along with that, some moisture starts to filter in there as well. And yes, there is the chance of seeing a few snowflakes mainly across northwest Arkansas. Little to no accumulation is going to be possible, but let's call it a dusting for tomorrow morning. At least if we do start to see those snowflakes coming across northwest Arkansas, we'll be talking about the rest of the week's forecast, plus how you can expect your tomorrow morning to look with those strong winds coming up in just a bit. Thanks, Stephen. And breaking now at noon, a wreck on I-49 causing some traffic issues, as you can see right here. This is near mile marker 61 going northbound. You can see it is quite a mess out there, and Stephen was watching this before the show. We're going to keep following up on this, and we'll let you know what we find out here. Well, Benton County doctor facing sexual assault charges has his hearing scheduled for today, now continued for tomorrow morning at 8:30. Dr. Adam Moss still faces multiple allegations. He is accused of sexually assaulting multiple patients with 2 more charges in Washington County. He's set for a hearing tomorrow while also facing a medical malpractice lawsuit in Benton County, which is set for trial in October this year. President Trump is set to give a speech tonight before a joint gathering of Congress, his first since taking office for a second time. This comes as new U.S. tariffs went into effect overnight and after the White House put all U.S. aid to Ukraine on hold. Natalie Brand has the latest from Capitol Hill.
25% tariffs are now in effect on the nation's 2 biggest trading partners, Canada and Mexico, as President Trump gets ready to address a joint session of Congress tonight.
It's going to be very costly for people to take advantage of this country.
The U.S. also increased tariffs on imports from China, bringing them to 20%. Each country has vowed to respond with tariffs of its own. But on Fox News, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent downplayed impacts to consumers.
I am highly confident that the Chinese manufacturers will eat the tariffs. Prices won't go up. With Canada and Mexico, I think we're in the middle of a transition.
But even some Republicans are worried.
Maine's economy is very integrated with Canada. Certain Maine products, such as lobster and blueberries, are often processed in Canada and then come back into the United States.
The president's address here on Capitol Hill also comes as the Trump administration paused military aid to Ukraine following Friday's contentious meeting with President Zelensky.
The president has been very clear he wants the Ukrainians to come to the negotiating table. I think when the Ukrainians come to the negotiating table, everything is on the table.
President Trump's domestic agenda is also expected to be front and center tonight, including efforts to shrink the size of the federal government, with over 25,000 layoffs so far.
Firing federal workers who do cancer research and Alzheimer's research, that does not make us a stronger country or a stronger government.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is among the Democrats who have invited fired federal workers as special guests tonight. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Among President Trump's guests for tonight are the widow and daughters of Corey Compertor, the rally-goer who was killed when a gunman tried to assassinate President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania this past summer. And federal agencies across the country have been laying off employees this year as the White House downsizes the federal workforce. Maya Ellison is exploring what's happening with federal agencies here in Arkansas.
We don't have staff to support the work that we do. I'm worried both about our work, but also, potentially considerations for keeping professors, keeping faculty.
University of Minnesota plant pathology assistant professor Megan McKay sees the effects of the federal layoffs happening across the country. Her department works under the United States Department of Agriculture, one of several agencies impacted by President Trump's executive order to reduce the size of the federal government. It's a similar story 850 miles away in Hot Springs.
Park rangers do more than just greet visitors at a visitor center. They're scientists, and many people don't realize that. They're historians, they're stewards of the land.
According to CBS News, the federal government has already laid off around 1,000 National Park Service employees. Those cuts and changes are now trickling down to Spa City.
There are people who have been promoted to other national parks, and because of the hiring freeze, they've been unable to hire new people to come in and fill those positions.
The city of Hot Springs relies on park employees to tend to the national park. That includes parts of Bathhouse Row.
Well, we received notice from the Hot Springs National Park Superintendent, Laura Miller, that the Fordyce Bathhouse, which serves as a visitor center and museum for the Hot Springs National Park, will be closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays of each week until further notice.
Hot Springs Mayor Pat McCabe says the recent changes could impact visitors, especially with spring just around the corner. While the layoffs haven't reached the national park at this time, people like Brad Burleson are making sure the government knows the importance of the men and women who work there before things get to that point.
Yesterday, we had a gathering. Once the numbers came in, it was close to 300 people that came out to show support for Hot Springs National Park.
Burleson and others marched along the street over the weekend, highlighting the importance of keeping the doors open to some of the city's biggest tourist attractions.
There are people who may be changing their plans because they're hearing about national park closures all over, and that is not good for business here in Hot Springs.
That was Maya Ellison reporting. The changes to the Hot Springs Visitor Center will go into effect today. Meanwhile, state lawmakers have set a date to end this year's legislative session. The full House and Senate both voted to extend the 95th session until April 14th, giving lawmakers 6 more weeks to pass legislation. One of the big items on the agenda for today is the Generating Jobs Act of 2025. The bill aims to create new jobs to upgrade the state's energy infrastructure and replace aging power plants set to close. The Senate is scheduled to discuss the plan today. And state lawmakers continue forward with plans to build a 3,000-bed prison in Franklin County. Now we're getting a better idea of how much that prison will cost to build. On Monday, state lawmakers released their initial estimate for construction, which was $825 million. Representatives for the construction company say there are still key evaluations that need to be done in order to refine that final price tag. This comes after the Joint Budget Committee failed to get enough votes to draft in an appropriations bill for the project. Senator Brian King released a statement saying in part that the figure is not close to what the total cost will be and that taxpayers should be terrified at how this disaster is being managed. State Senator Jonathan Dismang, who filed one of the appropriation bills and is also the co-chair of the Joint Budget Committee, said by securing the appropriation and maintaining a proper level of oversight, the state will build safer and stronger. We're following a developing story in Logan County, where Arkansas State Police are investigating a homicide. They say 84-year-old William Harris was found dead in a home near Delaware, Arkansas over the weekend. State police say a family member had gone to check on Harris at his home, where they found him dead inside. His body is now heading to the state crime lab to find a cause of death.